Top 30 Human Rights Commission interview questions and answers. Preparing for a Human Rights Commission interview requires more than just knowledge of policies and laws. It's about showing commitment to justice, fairness, and empathy for vulnerable communities. Candidates must demonstrate strong analytical skills, a clear understanding of international frameworks, and practical approaches to addressing violations. This guide provides the top 30 interview questions with thoughtful answers to help you build confidence and communicate your dedication to protecting and promoting human rights effectively. 1. Why do you want to work with the Human Rights Commission? I want to work with the Human Rights Commission because it aligns with my values of justice and equality. I believe every individual deserves dignity and protection under the law. By joining this organization, I can contribute to safeguarding rights, amplifying marginalized voices, and holding institutions accountable. This role offers a platform to combine my legal knowledge, advocacy skills, and passion for fairness to bring meaningful change to communities in need. 2. What does human rights mean to you? To me, human rights are universal entitlements that every individual possesses regardless of race, gender, religion, or social status. They ensure dignity, freedom, and equality in society. Human rights mean protecting people from discrimination, abuse, or exploitation while enabling access to opportunities and justice. They serve as a foundation for fairness, respect, and peace. Upholding human rights is essential for creating inclusive societies where individuals can thrive without fear or oppression. 3. Can you explain the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR? The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted in 1948 by the United Nations, is a landmark document that defines the basic rights and freedoms to which all humans are entitled. It outlines principles such as equality before the law, freedom of speech, and the right to life and liberty. Though not legally binding, it has influenced constitutions, international treaties, and human rights laws worldwide. It remains a guiding framework for protecting global human dignity. 4. How would you handle a case involving discrimination? Handling a discrimination case requires impartiality, sensitivity, and thorough investigation. I would begin by listening carefully to complainants' concerns, documenting evidence, and ensuring confidentiality. Next, I review relevant legal frameworks and organizational policies. Mediation may be considered where appropriate, but accountability is key. I would recommend corrective measures, whether through legal action, institutional reform, or awareness campaigns. The goal is not only resolution, but also preventing recurrence and fostering a more inclusive environment. 5. What challenges do human rights commissions face today? Human rights commissions face challenges such as limited resources, political pressure, and public distrust. In some cases, lack of enforcement power makes accountability difficult. Rising global issues like refugee crises, climate change, digital privacy, and discrimination against minorities further complicate matters. Balancing neutrality while advocating for vulnerable groups is another challenge. Despite these obstacles, commissions remain essential, and strong collaboration with governments, NGOs, and communities is necessary to effectively protect and promote human rights. 6. How do you balance neutrality with advocacy? Balancing neutrality with advocacy means acting as an unbiased mediator while still strongly defending fundamental rights. As a commission member, I would remain impartial in investigations, ensuring both sides are heard. At the same time, I would advocate for systemic reforms, awareness campaigns, and policy recommendations that strengthen rights protections. Neutrality doesn't mean silence. It means fairness, objectivity, and using evidence to push for change while avoiding partisanship or bias in decision-making processes. 7. Describe a time you dealt with a sensitive issue. In my previous role, I worked with a community experiencing workplace discrimination. Many victims were hesitant to speak up due to fear of retaliation. I built trust by ensuring confidentiality and creating safe channels for reporting. I carefully documented cases, engaged stakeholders, and facilitated discussions with management. The outcome was a new policy against discrimination and sensitivity training for staff. This experience taught me the importance of empathy, patience, and persistence in human rights work. 8. How would you address human rights violations in digital spaces? Digital spaces pose unique human rights challenges, such as privacy violations, hate speech, and cyberbullying. To address these, I would advocate for strong data protection laws, ethical use of technology, and digital literacy programs. Collaboration with tech companies is crucial to ensure platforms safeguard rights. I would also support victims through reporting mechanisms and legal remedies. The goal is to balance freedom of expression with protection against online abuse and ensure inclusive digital environments. 9. What skills make you suitable for this role? I bring strong analytical and investigative skills, a deep understanding of human rights laws, and effective communication abilities. My background in advocacy and conflict resolution allows me to engage diverse stakeholders with empathy and professionalism. I am detail-oriented in documentation and reporting while adaptable in dynamic environments. Moreover, my commitment of fairness, cultural sensitivity, and ethical decision-making makes me well-suited to serve the Commission in promoting justice, equality, and human dignity. 10. How do you stay updated on human rights issues? I stay updated by following international organizations like the UN Human Rights Council, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch. I regularly read legal journals, attend webinars, and participate in human rights workshops. I also track news and policy developments in both local and global contexts. Networking with professionals in the field and engaging in research further enhance my awareness. Staying informed is essential to addressing emerging issues with timely and effective responses. 11. How would you handle conflict between cultural practices and human rights? When cultural practices conflict with human rights, sensitivity and dialogue are crucial. I would first seek to understand the cultural context while emphasizing that certain practices, such as child marriage or harmful rituals, violate universal rights. My approach would involve education, community engagement, and collaboration with local leaders to find alternatives that respect culture without compromising rights. The goal is to foster gradual, sustainable change rather than imposing external solutions that may cause resistance. 12. What motivates you to work in human rights? I am motivated by a deep belief in justice and equality. Growing up, I witnessed people marginalized due to poverty and discrimination. These experiences inspire me to pursue a career where I could actively contribute to fairness and dignity for all. Working in human rights gives me purpose. It's about giving voice to the voiceless, addressing injustices, and building a society where compassion and fairness shape how institutions treat every individual. 13. How do you ensure confidentiality in investigations? Confidentiality is vital to protect complainants and maintain trust. I ensure it by securely handling evidence, limiting access to sensitive data, and following strict privacy protocols. All interviews and documents are stored safely, with information disclosed only when legally required. I communicate clearly to participants about their rights and the boundaries of confidentiality. By safeguarding privacy, I build credibility for Commission while encouraging victims and witnesses to come forward without fear of retaliation. 14. How would you investigate allegations of police misconduct? Investigating police misconduct requires independence, fairness, and transparency. I would begin by gathering testimonies, reviewing reports, and securing physical or digital evidence. Victims and witnesses will be given safe platforms to share their experiences. I would also examine whether systemic issues like poor training contributed. Based on findings, I would recommend disciplinary actions, legal proceedings, or policy reforms. My priority would be ensuring accountability, restoring public trust, and preventing future abuses of authority. 15. How do you approach working with vulnerable groups? Working with vulnerable groups requires empathy, patience, and respect. I focus on building trust by listening to their stories without judgment and ensuring safe spaces for dialogue. I adapt communication styles to be clear and culturally sensitive. Empowering communities through education, legal awareness, and advocacy helps strengthen their voices. By prioritizing inclusivity and dignity, I ensure that vulnerable groups feel supported and that their concerns are effectively represented in human rights frameworks. 16. What role do NGOs play in human rights? NGOs play a crucial role in advancing human rights. They document violations, raise awareness, and advocate for policy change. They often provide direct support to victims through legal aid, counseling, or shelter. NGOs also act as watchdogs, holding governments and institutions accountable when they fail to protect rights. Collaborating with NGOs strengthens the Commission's work by expanding outreach, mobilizing resources, and amplifying voices that might otherwise go unheard in the justice system. 17. How would you handle media inquiries on sensitive cases? When dealing with media inquiries, I would prioritize accuracy, confidentiality, and transparency. I would prepare a clear statement that respects ongoing investigations while reassuring the public about the Commission's commitment to fairness. Sensitive details about victims would not be disclosed without consent. Instead, I would focus on outlining general procedures and emphasizing accountability. The goal is to maintain public trust, respect victims' dignity, and ensure that communication aligns with ethical and legal obligations. 18. How do you address gender-based violence cases? Addressing gender-based violence requires sensitivity and survivor-centered approaches. I would start by ensuring victims receive immediate protection, medical care, and counseling. I would gather evidence carefully, respecting the survivor's dignity and confidentiality. Legal remedies must be pursued while also advocating for prevention through awareness campaigns and training programs. Collaboration with law enforcement and NGOs is essential. My aim would be not only justice for survivors, but also cultural change that challenges gender-based discrimination. 19. How would you respond to allegations against a government agency? Allegations against a government agency require impartial investigation and courage. I would begin by collecting verifiable evidence, interviewing stakeholders, and reviewing institutional records. It is crucial to maintain independence and resist political pressure. Findings would be documented transparently, with recommendations for accountability and systemic reform. I would also ensure victims are protected throughout the process. Upholding fairness and credibility is essential, as public trust depends on the Commission's impartial handling of sensitive cases. 20. How do you manage stress in human rights work? Human rights work can be emotionally demanding, so managing stress is essential. I practice self-care through mindfulness, exercise, and maintaining supportive networks. I also rely on teamwork, debriefing with colleagues, and setting healthy boundaries. Recognizing small wins and focusing on long-term impact helps me stay motivated. By maintaining resilience and emotional balance, I can provide consistent, compassionate service to victims while sustaining the stamina required for challenging investigations and advocacy work. 21. How would you evaluate the effectiveness of human rights programs? Evaluating human rights programs involves both quantitative and qualitative measures. I would track indicators like reduced violations, increased awareness, and improved access to justice. Gathering feedback from beneficiaries and stakeholders ensures practical insights. Independent audits and field visits also help verify outcomes. Programs must be assessed not only by numbers, but by their ability to empower communities, influence policy, and create sustainable change. A strong evaluation process strengthens accountability and guides future improvements. 22. How would you address workplace harassment complaints? Workplace harassment must be addressed swiftly and fairly. I would provide confidential reporting mechanisms, listen carefully to complainants, and document evidence thoroughly. Ensuring non-retaliation protections is essential. Where appropriate, mediation may be attempted, but serious cases require formal investigations and disciplinary action. Training and awareness programs should also be implemented to prevent future incidents. The focus must remain on protecting victims, upholding fairness, and fostering a safe and respectful workplace culture for all employees. 23. What is the role of education in human rights promotion? Education is a powerful tool for promoting human rights. By integrating human rights principles into curricula, individuals learn about dignity, equality, and justice from an early age. Community workshops, awareness campaigns, and training programs further spread knowledge. Education empowers people to recognize violations and demand accountability. It also helps break cycles of discrimination and prejudice. Ultimately, informed citizens are better equipped to protect their rights and support inclusive societies that uphold fairness and dignity. 24. How would you handle cases involving children's rights? Children's rights cases require urgency and sensitivity. I would prioritize the child's safety and well-being, ensuring immediate protection and support services. Investigations must be conducted with care, using child-friendly communication. Legal remedies should be pursued swiftly, holding violators accountable. Beyond resolving cases, I would advocate for stronger child protection policies and awareness programs. Safeguarding children's rights is essential because they are among the most vulnerable and deserve nurturing environments for healthy development. 25. How you deal with cases involving refugees or migrants. Cases involving refugees or migrants require cultural sensitivity and an understanding of international frameworks like the 1951 Refugee Convention. I would ensure access to legal protection, humanitarian aid, and safe reporting mechanisms. Advocacy with host governments is critical to prevent discrimination and exploitation. Collaboration with NGOs and UN agencies strengthens response efforts. The priority is to protect the dignity, safety, and basic rights of migrants while promoting integration and reducing xenophobic attitudes in host societies. 26. How would you address cases of freedom of speech violations? Freedom of speech is fundamental but not absolute. I would investigate whether restrictions are lawful, necessary, and proportionate. Cases involving censorship, silencing of journalists, or suppression of dissent require urgent attention. I would advocate for stronger protections while recognizing limits against hate speech or incitement to violence. Balancing rights responsibly is key. Public education on respectful expression also helps reduce misuse. Protecting free speech is essential for democracy and accountability in any society. 27. How do you engage communities in human rights promotion? Engaging communities requires building trust, respecting local cultures, and fostering dialogue. I would organize awareness workshops, listening sessions, and collaborative projects that give people ownership of human rights initiatives. Encouraging participation from youth, women, and marginalized groups ensures inclusivity. Partnerships with local leaders and organizations strengthen outreach. By empowering communities to recognize their rights and advocate for themselves, human rights promotion becomes sustainable and rooted in the realities people face daily. 28. How would you handle backlash from powerful institutions? Backlash from powerful institutions requires courage and adherence to principles. I would focus on transparency, documenting evidence thoroughly, and following due process. Collaborating with independent bodies, media, and NGOs helps amplify accountability efforts. Maintaining professional integrity and refusing to succumb to intimidation is critical. While safety measures are necessary, the Commission's credibility depends on its ability to stand firm against pressure. Upholding justice, even against resistance, reinforces public trust in human rights institutions. 29. How you deal with conflicting stakeholder interests. Conflicting stakeholder interests are common in human rights work. I would approach such situations by facilitating dialogue, seeking common ground, and focusing on shared goals like justice and fairness. Where compromise is possible, I mediate solutions without undermining core rights principles. If compromise isn't feasible, I prioritize the protection of vulnerable groups. The key is to balance diplomacy with firmness, ensuring decisions align with human rights obligations while minimizing unnecessary conflicts among stakeholders. 30. What do you see as the future of human rights? The future of human rights lies in adapting to new challenges while strengthening universal principles. Issues like climate change, artificial intelligence, and global migration will redefine rights protection. Increased collaboration between governments, NGOs, and citizens is essential. Digital tools can enhance advocacy but also pose risks that must be managed. Ultimately, the future will depend on global solidarity, education, and innovation to ensure that every individual enjoys dignity, equality, and justice. Preparing for a Human Rights Commission interview is about more than memorizing answers. It's about showing your passion for justice, fairness, and service to humanity. This guide of 30 common questions and structured answers provides a foundation to express your knowledge confidently. Remember, interviewers look for sincerity, empathy, and resilience as much as technical understanding. Use these examples to inspire your own personalized responses, highlighting real-life experiences and commitment to human rights. Continue to stay informed. Practice articulating your ideas clearly and strengthen your skills in investigation, advocacy, and conflict resolution. By approaching the interview with confidence, humility, and a clear vision for justice, You position yourself as a strong candidate ready to serve with integrity and compassion.